Taking a ride on the Freedom Train podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Ward, and as always, ride with me is my homies, Mr. Patrick Irvin and Mr. Jamie Basham. Remember, the Freedom Train is sponsored by PAX Inc. That's PACTS INC, and PAX Inc. is a black advocacy organization aimed at developing the black community to its maximum potential through a focus on education and economics with the traits of hard work, honesty, and integrity. And for more information, make sure you visit www.pactsinc.org to learn more about PAX Inc., the members, their missions, all the things that PAX Inc. does for the black community. And while you're on there, make sure you click on the tab that says The Code so you can learn more about the codes of conduct that were created by PAX Inc. to help black America work more as a cohesive unit. As you already know, while you're online, make sure you visit our Freedom Train website at www.freedomtrainradio.com to get a playback of your favorite shows, to learn more about myself, Jamie, Patrick, as well as our great guests, because we always have great guests. Follow the Freedom Train on Twitter at FreedomTrainNet. Follow the Freedom Train on Instagram at FreedomTrainnetwork. Subscribe to the Freedom Train on YouTube. Subscribe to the Freedom Train on iTunes and or Google Play. And, like our Freedom Train Facebook page. That way you have so many options and so many ways to stay up on what we got going on here at the Freedom Train. And we're just doing what we do. So, Pat, Jamie, what's going on, fellas?
What's cracking?
You tell us, Sergeant.
Nah, man. It's everything good on my side, man. We getting it bracking over here, blood.
Whatever you call it, man.
I was going to say, what is a bracken? What is?
Because you're not from Bompton, bro. You got to replace all your C's and B's and stuff like that. Come on, Pat, man. You don't call.
I got you. I cracked the code. I'm with you.
Yeah. I'm trying to be cool, and you messing it up for me, man.
I'm sorry, man.
Jamie been eating poke and beans, watching hood movies.
Yeah. I just got done watching.
State of being for me, so it requires work.
Y'all boys crazy. Hey, man, we got a good show once again. You know how we do at the Freedom Train. And today we're going down one of my favorite lanes, down this historical trail. So we have a great brother on the show today, my a good brother, Christopher Everett. Shout out to Dr. Samora Swigert for hooking us up so we can have this interview with brother Christopher Everett. But before we get him on, I want to give you a little background information about Mr. Everett. So Christopher Everett is a writer, film director, and film producer from Laurinburg, North Carolina. He has experience in film, graphic arts, and marketing. He is a 2002 graduate of King's College in Charlotte, North Carolina, with a degree in graphic design and graphic arts. He recently directed his first feature-length documentary film entitled Wilmington on Fire, which chronicles the 1898 Wilmington Massacre in Wilmington, North Carolina. The film has won numerous awards and has screened at several universities and film festivals, such as the 2015 Cucamoners Film Festival, the 2016 North Carolina Black Film Festival, the 2016 Sankofa Film Festival, the 2017 Pan-African Film Festival, and recently the 2017 Lone Leaf Film Festival, in which Wilmington on Fire won Best Historical Documentary Feature. The film has also broken 2 film festival attendance records. It broke the attendance record in the 2015 Cucamoners Film Festival for most attended screening ever in the film festival's 21-year history, and it broke the attendance record in the 2016 North Carolina Black Film Festival for most attended screening ever in the film's 15-year history. So once again, hailing from North Carolina, we'd like to welcome our good brother to the Freedom Train, Brother Christopher Everett, the director of Wilmington on Fire.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, my brother? Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on.
No problem, my brother, no problem. We're eager to learn more about you, this film, and different ways that we can support what you have going on, because I think what you're doing is great. And I mean, we've seen the film. It's a great film, so we don't want to keep the audience waiting. So Patrick, you got the first question. Let's do this.
Yeah, and I want to say before we start, I appreciated you doing the film. I heard about the film through the social media campaign build-up before the film was released. And I got excited because I'm a book nerd and a history nerd as well. So it's very rare that I'm introduced to something that I am not informed of. And the social media build-up, kind of was like, whoa, wait, there's a documentary on Wilmington. And at the time, I was living in Greenville, which, wasn't too far from Wilmington.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let me look into this. And I ended up becoming obsessed with the story. And it was, if you hadn't been doing what you were doing, I wouldn't have even, that wouldn't have been something that would even register. So, definitely appreciate that. So, welcome to the Freedom Train. So give us some background information. You know what I'm saying? Let us know about yourself and like what prompted you to go into this story in such a way, and even then to move on to decide I'm going to make a full-length feature documentary about this story.
Well, my name is Christopher Everett, man. I'm born and raised in a small town in North Carolina called Laurinburg. It's not too much to it, man. It's just a regular small country town. But, I always, growing up, always wanted to, make films. But I really didn't see that as a possibility until I left, Laurinburg and went to college. When I moved to Charlotte, and I went to school for graphic design at King's College. And that kind of got me into the world of being creative, you know what I'm saying, through whatever graphic arts and freelance projects I was getting myself into. It allowed me to be creative and experience a whole new world out there, for being creative. And then after a while, I started doing acting, man. I was about 100 pounds lighter back then, though. You know what I'm saying? And I was doing the whole acting and modeling thing, man. That's what kind of got me into the whole thing with film. And then I tried to make the move to Atlanta, I would say about 2007. And I wanted to go down there because Atlanta was just getting popping with the whole acting and, and film industry down there. So I was trying to get down there early on it. But, things just didn't work out, man. And so I just kind of just gave up on that passion. And then I said, you know what? I want to start making, my own films. I'm tired of always complaining, that Hollywood won't make films that I want to see. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start my own production company, and I'm going to make the type of films that I want to see and the stories that I want to tell. You know what I'm saying? Also, and other people that are interested in these type of stories that I want to put out, too. So I said, you know what? Let me form my own little company. I'll be an entrepreneur with this thing as well, plus, make my own films at the same time. So I say it was about 2010 when I decided just to do my first project. And I kind of stumbled upon the whole 1898 Wilmington Massacre story. And for your listeners who aren't familiar with the 1898 Wilmington Massacre, it was pretty much one of the only coup d'etats that have ever happened in America. And a coup d'etat is like an actual overthrow of a government. And that's what happened. And that's what makes this story, significant to, what you might have saw with Rosewood and in Tulsa, where in this incident, they actually not only killed, a large number of black people and also exiled them from the city and stole property, but they also took over the government, meaning that they took, they made the mayor step down. They made the black aldermen and the black police officers and the black firemen also step down as well and forced them out of their positions and ran them out of town as well and just replaced the whole government with a white supremacist, regime. And that's what made this story real significant. And also, it just wasn't in Wilmington. They did this all over the state of North Carolina. And it was a full statewide white supremacy movement, and that led to Jim Crow segregation throughout North Carolina as well. So I knew that this subject matter was real big, and I saw that no one actually did a documentary on it. You had a couple of little student stuff here and there, people playing around with some stuff on YouTube, putting some little slideshows together, you know what I'm saying, of some pictures. But no one actually did a full production documentary on this thing. So I said, you know what, even though I don't have no money and no resources right now, I know that my people back in the day, they didn't have any resources either, but they still found a way to do it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do the same thing. And it took me 4 years to do it, but we made it happen.
So without, you kind of went into a little bit about what the movie is about. Could you kind of give us a brief synopsis of, what the movie's about? And also, could you tell us what historical lessons you learned yourself while making this film?
Yeah. Well, the film is about, man, it's a feature-length documentary that gives the ins and the outs of the 1898 Wilmington Massacre, pretty much showing from beginning to end. Showing how Wilmington was North Carolina's most progressive city back then. It was one of America's most progressive cities back then, where you had African Americans thriving, and you also had African Americans and with pretty much combined with the white coalition working together, side by side, trying to make the city a place for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Also trying to not only, the city of Wilmington be a place for everybody, but they wanted the whole state of North Carolina to be for everybody. They really were trying to be a model for this whole Reconstruction movement, you know what I'm saying, during that time. And the film shows how you had still yet a lingering white supremacy movement that pretty much still was there from the Civil War. Because when you look at it and you study and research, the main people behind the 1898 massacre fought in the Civil War. They fought for the Confederacy. And a lot of them had high-ranking, positions within the Confederate military. And they wanted to pretty much break up that black and white coalition and bring those white folks back to the Democratic Party. Back then, that was your party of white supremacy at that time. And they wanted to bring those people back. So we break all that down in the film. We show the different organizations such as the Red Shirts, the White Government Union, all these different ways that they were able to pull off this massacre and this whole overthrow of the government, not only in Wilmington but throughout North Carolina as well. And we also talk about certain ways they did it with propaganda. They did it through the court system. They did it through the laws and all of that stuff, man. So the film really breaks down the whole nine. It goes across the spectrum of how they did it, why they did it, and how they were able to pull it off and cement it. This whole movement of white supremacy that still is in effect to this day, especially in North Carolina and especially in Wilmington today.
Okay. Now, like I said earlier, I'm a history buff, so I definitely jumped at the opportunity to have you on this show so we can learn more about this massacre that happened, and just about everything that went into making this documentary and being able to be displayed to the masses, so black people and white people both can learn about what happened in Wilmington. Now, one of the most important components of that documentary was your cast in the movie, the people who were actually giving information. And you had a very knowledgeable cast. That's one of the things I really enjoyed about it. You had a very knowledgeable cast of historians and storytellers, people who were breaking down the massacre, as you said, from beginning to end, what happened in 1898. And for those who haven't seen the movie, can you tell our audience who were some of your cast members and how were you able to get some of those, especially some of the more well-named cast members, how were you able to get them to agree to be a part of your film?
Well, no, when I reached out, I know you probably saw the one brother, the Rastafarian brother. I think his name was Larry Rennie Thomas. he was one of the first people I reached out to when I was putting this thing together. And I saw him just through Google, man, just Google researching, and his name kept popping up. And I saw he had some videos on YouTube, and I saw that he had an organization that was actually out there, you know, seeking direct descendants of some of the victims of the 1898 massacre, because his organization was all about pushing for reparations for these descendants. So he was one of the first people I reached out to, and he kind of helped me also to get up with people like Professor Sandy Darity. And a lot of people might be familiar with Professor Sandy Darity from Duke, because he always talks about the wealth disparity, and he's been getting a lot of play lately as well on like Tone Talks and Yvette Carnell's show and stuff like that,
right,
talking about the wealth gap. So when I reached out to him, he definitely wanted to get involved. Pretty much everybody who I reached out to, like Professor Darity. We also got Dr. Lewin Manley. He's the grandson of Alex Manley. And if anybody's familiar with the 1898 story, Alex Manley's name always pops up. He was the black newspaper editor whose newspaper was burned down. So we got his grandson in the film. We also got the great-granddaughter of Thomas C. Miller in the film, Faith Chaplin. And her great-grandfather was one of the wealthiest black men in Wilmington back then. And he was ran out of town, and all his property was taken as well. So we have his great-granddaughter in the film. We also have this white lady named Lorraine Unfleet, and she actually wrote the official state report for the state of North Carolina on the 1898 massacre. And we also have this white dude named Kent Chatfield. He's an independent researcher. He contributed a lot of research to the state report. And he's been, he's heard the stories. He's, since he grew up in Wilmington. And he was like one of those people on the inside, those white cats that, were on the inside and then they kind of dropped down on everybody. You know what I'm saying? He was one of those guys that really exposed a lot of secrecy that has been held from the black community all these years, things that we didn't know about. And he was willing to come forth with that. So, we got him in the film. We also have Dr. Umar Johnson that a lot of people are familiar with. And Umar, I reached out to him, and he said, yeah, I want to do this, man. I'm familiar with the story, and just let me know when you want to do the interview. And that was it. And pretty much everybody who we had in the film, who I reached out to, they were down to be in it. I think everyone really wanted this story to be told, and I think everyone was waiting for someone to put something together like this. So when I presented the opportunity, everybody jumped on board.
Right. Like I said earlier, the film was put together, and just the way the information was explained, like even the part where it was talking about the Gatling gun, how it was used on the men, women, and children, and just like the amount of brutality that was inflicted upon our people, and for us to learn about this, but also understand that this was not an isolated event. Things like this happen to black communities all over the country. And so to me, that's one of the greatest things about your film is hopefully, I know for people like me, but hopefully for other people, it causes them to do more research on what actually happened within these black communities.
Yes, you're right. And that's another reason why I wanted to do this is that because sometimes when I do a screening, you'll have someone say, well, this isn't nothing new and they did this all over. But yeah, they did. But the thing is, they did it here, and I wanted to expose it, for what it was.
Right.
I think everyone, everyone should look in their own backyard and really find out what's there. And if you could write a book, do a documentary or something, do something to really expose it, and be able to teach the people so we can learn from our mistakes, man. That's why I really like doing documentaries. It's just not to teach us history. It's also so we can learn from certain mistakes that we made in the past so we won't make those same mistakes again.
There you go. That's one of the greatest.
I like that because that's, that's what I would consider myself a strategist or a tactician, and a big part of that is knowing history. So and that's, in my opinion, one of the components that's missing from today's activism is the historical lessons. You got a lot of people that are activists that are doing things, but if they just spent a little more time studying history, they would understand that what you think is brand new has been done before. We already have the results of that experiment.
Exactly.
So I love it when you say stuff like that. That's wonderful.
There you
I'm
go.
sorry. Go ahead. No, I got amped when he said, because we don't, like, how often do you hear somebody say that?
No, I mean, I feel you, because people really don't say that. I think that's why we continue to repeat history. So.
Yeah. And it's just like with our people, man. It's like we still trying to fight for integration.
Right.
Clips there. Knowing that, you know, the type of integration that we're trying to fight for it's not working. You know, it's still not working. So it's like, why are we continuing to do the same thing?
That's a fact. So that kind of leads us into our next question. So out there, we often hear, you know, black people, the reason why we haven't accumulated a lot of wealth is because we're lazy, we don't want to work the system and all that kind of stuff. Your movie tells the story of the American coup d'etat, which resulted in a lot of wealth and of the population being transferred to other people away from our communities and stuff like that. So can you help the audience understand why these events happened and what was the long-term effects of such events?
Yeah, well, you know, it really happened before these type of events. You know, the first event was slavery. You know, that pretty much, you know, we didn't own and control nothing there because we were slaves. And then once we got free from slavery, you know, some of us might have got a few resources, some of us might have got a little land. It depends on, you know, if our slave master had some type of heart to him. You know, he might have left us a little something here and there, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, you know, a lot of African Americans really didn't have anything to work with. But, you know, we took our tools and fuels and put them together, you know, and made it happen, made it work out the best way we could. And we were able to build some businesses. Even the black people that had resources, they didn't say like a lot of black people now with resources say, pull yourself up by the bootstrap. I got mine, you get yours. They said, nah, you know, we're going to take our land that we got and we're going to build a school on it. You know what I'm saying? We're going to create some businesses here for our people so we can thrive. Because even though they might have had some resources come out of slavery, they still couldn't stay around white folks. So they still had to be around us. You see what I'm saying? So we had to work together. And then you had things like Wilmington Massacre and Tulsa and Rosewood and Jim Crow laws that pretty much destroyed that advancement after slavery, you know, and set us back some more years. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And then you have the civil rights movement, you know, where we thought integration was the way. And then when we really found out, you know, we gave up the stuff that we had. We really didn't need to give up our stuff. We just needed the resources, you know, that we never really got after slavery. You know what I'm saying? We just need the resources to really strengthen our communities and our institutions. You know, if we just would have got the resources instead of integrating, man, we'd be some powerful people right now. But, you know, I guess we thought that, you know, that was the way for us just to be around white people and they would just change their hearts. But it just didn't happen. But, you know, as a result of all of that, you know, of us losing our property, losing our land, we lost that generational wealth. You know what I'm saying, that we never really could pass down, you know, from generation to generation. And I know Professor Darity talks about this all the time. People are familiar with him. You know, he's real big now with this whole wealth gap, this black wealth gap. And it stems from all that. It stems from slavery. It stems from years of Jim Crow segregation, from redlining, stealing, the theft of property, high unemployment, lack of access to capital to grow your business or to establish a business. All these things are racist, white supremacy acts to keep black people down and marginalized. And we are seeing the results of it right now. And even Professor Darity, a lot of stuff we couldn't use because it didn't specifically focus on Wilmington. But when I sat down with him, he broke down the stat. He was saying that, you know, a lot of people would say, well, it's just black people just aren't trying hard enough. Well, black people are just lazy. Or we don't go to school. And he broke it all down. And he said, no, that's true at all. He was saying that black people, we actually save more than white people, you know, on average. And it's a whole bunch of things we do on equivalent to white people. But he was saying that it has nothing to do with that. He was saying that you saving and all this stuff, you can't save your way out of poverty. It's just no possible way because you have inflation and all type of other stuff that are factors. You know what I'm saying? So he was just saying that it's the whole thing of generational wealth. Slavery and Jim Crow, America has never addressed those issues. And they never addressed that issue of the access to the resources. And that has been the major issue for black people. And that's why we're in this current situation that we are today.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I just wanted to ask this because you made me think about something. Because a friend of ours, Professor Carl Tone Jones, he's always talking about one of the best things or one of the greatest things that black people have to do when they create their own communities or seek independence is to be able to protect themselves. And it was clear in this that they were not able to protect themselves. I mean, if you got handguns versus a prototype Gatling gun, you won't be able to protect themselves. So, like, from your historical research, like, what advice would you give to others on methods and means and just like just ideas behind protecting what you build, especially protecting.
Oh yeah, you definitely. Yeah, and that's one of the lessons right there that we all can learn from, especially our people, is that we have to build an economic base first, and once we build an economic base, we have to protect it because we see what will happen. Wilmington, Tulsa, Rosewood, and countless others of things, and also. Like I said, we have to protect it, and that goes to practicing our amendments, our amendment rights. It's our right to bear arms and protect what we got. You know what I'm saying? That's our constitutional right, and we need to really do that. And you're seeing a lot of African Americans do that now. A lot of African Americans are starting their own gun clubs and doing things like that, getting their permits and everything. So you're seeing a rise in that. So I think a lot of our people are starting to wake up in regards to a lot of the stuff that's going on with police brutality, the resurgence of a lot of hate groups and stuff. So a lot of our people are starting to arm themselves, in the proper way now. So, but that's he's Professor Carlton Jones is right on the money with that. We have to protect our stuff. We have to protect ourselves. Once we get our economic base in order, we have to protect. But also, it's still, politics still comes into play as well. We still have to have some political power as well because, with certain places, if they didn't use the gun, they used the laws. They would put a highway through the black community and destroy it that way. You know what I'm saying? So if they didn't do it through the gun, they would just do it through certain type of laws where they would just put like a highway through the black area and totally destroy it like that. So, all of it kind of works hand in hand.
Yeah, that's how the black community in Richmond, Virginia got destroyed. They ran a highway right through the middle of it.
We had a Black Wall Street in Durham as well, through the Hate Tide District, and they did the same thing, put a highway right through that joint, even with Tulsa. Because, when Tulsa was destroyed in 1921, they rebuilt it back.
Right.
And they rebuilt it bigger than ever. And then the next thing they did, they put a highway through that joint. You can see the highway now when you go visit. It's right through it, still, to this day.
Yep. Urban development. Well, that's not even urban development. That's I forget the term. But yeah, you know what though? I was really happy that because I love Professor Daugherty, Dr. Daugherty. My friend Dr. Maisha Williams, she's an economics professor, and she put me on to him a couple of years back, and I'm big into numbers and stuff, and like that's practically all he is numbers.
Yeah.
And statistics and stuff like that, and the way he breaks things down, So I was so happy that he got shine, and even the way he breaks, like the way he breaks stuff down, the way he analyzes the numbers, the way I think she was telling me he had almost created his own form of statistics with stratification economics, and that was kind of his field that he had kind of created. That is a brilliant brother, and it was so wonderful to see him getting that type of shine.
And he's one of these guys. He's not like like a lot of these academic guys, man. They're real stuck up, and if you're not like Spike Lee or these big people like CNN networks or ESPN, you know what I'm saying, MSNBC, but he's down to earth, man. He said, "Hey, Chris, whenever you want to do something, just hit me up. Let's do it." And you definitely need people like that. Yeah. That's in academia, who really know what they're talking about, who got the stats, who got the facts and everything, and who's willing to really relay their information with our people.